Once upon a time, in ancient Israel, the people demanded a king. They didn't want to be different anymore. They wanted a ruler like all the other nations had. So, God gave them Saul. He looked handsome, tall and strong like a natural warrior. At first, Saul tried, but leading a nation wasn't easy. He started making decisions out of fear and insecurity instead of faith. In the book of 1 Samuel 13 verses 9 to 14, we are told of how Saul got impatient before a big battle. Instead of waiting for the prophet Samuel to offer a sacrifice to God, Saul did it himself, a job only priests and prophets were allowed to do. That was his first big mistake. Another significant error occurred when, in a subsequent event documented in 1 Samuel 15 verses 1 to 23, King Saul succumbed to the fear of public opinion and chose to disregard the divine instructions conveyed by the prophet Samuel, which mandated the complete destruction of all that belonged to Amalek. But Saul and his men spared the Amalekite king Agag and kept the best loot and everything that appealed to them. From that moment on, Saul still wore the crown physically, but spiritually he was dethroned. God's blessing was removed from him, but unbeknown to everybody, change was coming. Meanwhile, somewhere in the shadows, out in the hills, a new kind of leader was being prepared and developed by God. Then one day, God spoke to Samuel again. "How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go to Jesse's house in Bethlehem. One of his sons will be the next king." Samuel was nervous. Saul was still on the throne, but he obeyed. He arrived quietly and asked to meet Jesse's sons. When he arrived at Jesse's house, one by one, Jesse introduced his sons. Samuel saw tall, impressive young men and thought, "This must be the one." But God whispered, "Don't look at how tall or strong he is. People judge by outward appearance, but I look at the heart." After 7 sons, none were chosen. Samuel asked Jesse if there were still other sons. Jesse replied, "There is still the youngest, David, but he is out in the fields watching sheep and goats." Samuel asked Jesse to have him called. As a shepherd boy, no one even considered him important enough to be there first. But as soon as David walked in, God said, "This is the one." Right then and there, Samuel asked everyone to stand up, and he anointed David with oil. In that moment, the Spirit of God came powerfully upon him, and David was anointed king that day. David was not inaugurated as king over Israel overnight. He went back to the fields, but something had changed. He now carried a calling, a sacred anointing, a quiet strength, and a heart aligned to God's purposes. This story reminds us, leadership isn't about status only. God chooses whom he wants. It's also about character. While